everyone, Sam here, your mother of Valkyries and host of the Sword and the Ribbon podcast. Today, my sister Alina joins me on the podcast. Alina has a BS in kinesiology, ISSA certified personal trainer, former head rock climbing coach, and now a physical therapy aide. She's looking at going back to school to be a physical therapy assistant, and most importantly, she is the 45-minute younger sibling to our mind-stilling Sherpa, Becca. This episode contains a trigger warning. This episode may contain themes about body weight, diet culture, eating habits, body shape, and mental illness. If any of those topics are something that will upset you or cause any type of negative impact, I would recommend skipping this episode. Hi, Alina. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, sis. Happy to be here. I was literally as you started talking, about to sneeze, so that was a fantastic way to start.
Well, thanks for not sneezing on recording.
You're welcome.
I just want you to know that about exactly a year ago, Becca was on the podcast recording.
Oh, really?
I think you're just about a year and 45 minutes after her.
Okay. I listened to that. It was fun hearing you. It's always fun watching you guys because then you talk about me, and it's just kind of funny to hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah, we like to talk shit about you sometimes. I know. I think we gave you shit in the Pokemon one, in the Pokemon workout.
You did. You called me, what is it, the rare type Pokemon? Because I just kind of I'm kind of there, but kind of not there.
Yeah, you pop in occasionally. Yeah. I mean, the next time you come in, I'm going to throw one of the Pokeballs at you. Okay, so my rare Pokemon sister is here. So tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, what your dust jacket would say about you.
I don't really know what a dust jacket is. I thought it was one of those Letterman jackets, but I'm not actually sure what those are. But that's just name and number. And granted, even the name, I'm do I go with Rogers or Holmes?
Oh my god! So the dust jacket is the thing that goes around the and there's a the description of who you are, what you do. I gave you a lovely little intro, but is there more?
Oh yeah, so.
You went to school, I read.
I did go to school, but that was for the human body, not literature. So any literature I read was just one of those scientific journals or whatever, and there's an abstract. So if you said an abstract about yourself.
Give us the abstract about yourself. Oh my god.
Well, as mentioned in the beginning, I used to be a head coach for a competition rock climbing team. I've been climbing for almost a decade, which is kind of wild to say at the moment. I've gotten into other hobbies, especially being up in Tahoe, like mountain biking, skiing, scuba diving. I just do a lot of stuff.
And you macrame sometimes.
I macrame sometimes. I get a little artsy every now and then. My bass guitar, whenever I decide that I want to play a riff, which is really just Carry On Wayward Son, is the only riff I know. And I'm I'll learn the rest at some point, and then I don't. But yeah, I dabble.
Well, that was a very interesting abstract. Thank you. So before we jump in, I have a couple of fun questions for you. You ready?
I'm ready.
So we both love Ted Lasso. What is your favorite Tedism?
My favorite Tedism? A Tedism is a quote, right? From Ted? Okay, gotcha. My favorite Tedism is actually not an original Ted quote, but is actually Ted Lasso quoting Walt Whitman when he's be curious, not judgmental. Oh, that's the only time I can do his accent. And then he throws the dart, and that's, I don't know. I always thought that was nice, especially coaching kids, because they're always in the competition scene, because they're always really hard or avoid certain moves because they're oh, it's too hard, or I can't do it. And I'm be curious, just try it. Don't judge yourself for it just because you can't do it the first try.
That's really good. I like how you apply that to your coaching kids.
There is a long Ted Lasso season of me because I was watching Ted Lasso and I'm oh, this is really great for the teen kids. So I'd quote Ted Lasso so much. And the kids, I don't know if they were annoyed with me, but one of them made a little believe sign and gave it to me, and that was really cute.
Yeah, that was really cute.
Yeah, it was really sweet.
And I know you want to get a believe tattoo on your arm.
I do, yeah. One of my old team kids, she just graduated high school, is actually apprenticing as a tattoo artist. And I text her, I said, I want a tattoo from you whenever you're ready to do skin. And she goes, I got you.
That's so cool.
Yeah. I was I'd love to get a tattoo from my old team kid. That'd be crazy.
Yeah, that's a fun thing to do. And she should tattoo believe on you. I feel like it would be like full circle, full tattoo.
Yeah.
So our lovely sister has gotten us both into anime, or I'm still dipping my toe. If you could only watch one anime the rest of your life, which would you choose?
Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
With All Might?
Oh, it does have the same voice actor as All Might, but yeah, actually when I was sick, Armstrong is the character's name. He's another really big buff guy, and he goes, you need to see a strong physique to inspire you to better health. And when I was sick, I was just like, I wish I had an Armstrong to inspire me into better health. Have we showed you that one, sis?
Yeah, you have. I don't remember anything.
Okay, got you. Yeah. We probably showed you Armstrong a couple of times just because he was just a big buff guy.
That's about all I remember. And then your Y'all Might shirt.
That's a different anime, but same voice actor, though.
Like I said, I'm dipping my toe. Well, for someone who's dipping their toe or anyone that's new to anime, which should they start with?
Yeah, that's kind of a tougher question just because I was really picky about my anime. So it's finding the least anime that you could start off with. And for me, that was Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Like, yeah, the first couple episodes were like kind of quirky and weird and like goofy. But then I remember walking in on Bex watching like the third episode and it got really dark. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, for the first episode when it was quirky and weird, I'm like, what the fuck is this? It's anime. It's so weird. And then the next episode came when it was like dark and serious. I was like, what the fuck is this? There's substance to this? And then I was like, okay, I guess I'll watch it from the beginning. And I went back and like, it was just a really nice growth. So I always recommend Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood just because it just has like that nice transition into like growing characters and it's more about the story because some of them can get very like fan servicey and kind of like weird. And you're like, what the heck is this? But Full Metal Alchemist is a little less like that in my opinion.
So starting off with One Piece is not the best way to go?
A lot of people really like One Piece. I had a harder time starting off with it, mainly because the animation style creeped me out. But then I don't even know. I think I just, as usual, watched Bex watch it. And then I was like, oh, wow, this looks interesting. And then I just kept going with it.
Yeah. I say One Piece. Like that's the only one that I'm like more consistently watching and Naruto. But you guys gave me Fruits Basket.
That one's a little harder to get into.
Yeah. I need a recap of each episode of what's going on.
Yeah. It's just very romance anime, so it's just very it's hard to get into.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Where is your favorite place to rock climb?
Bishop, California. There's just a giant boulder field. It's in a desert. The camping's really easy. And the climbing's fun. I always just have a good time there. I think it's really just the people and the climbs.
It's always the environment of, obviously it's the environment, but like the environment of people that help make it much better.
Yeah. Also, desert camping, significantly more appealing than forest camping.
Why is that?
Less bugs and you don't have to worry about bears.
That's the answer I expected.
Yeah, it's just that simple. There's no bugs, so you don't have to, I mean, there are bugs, but not like as significant. Like we had the screen door open to let some air in and we left the light on and it attracted like a shit ton of beetles and spiders and other bugs, so that was fun. And then, yeah, bears.
Well, yeah, you live in Tahoe, you experience bears on the regular.
Also, like trees. There's like your eyes and your imagination play tricks on you and like the shadows and the trees in the forest. The desert is just like you see more desert. That's kind of it. You can maybe see a town not too far off.
You don't start to think that there's like a UFO like flying above you out in the desert?
Oh, no, definitely. Not for myself, but like everyone else who believes in that. They're like, there was a light in the sky. I think it's a UFO. And I'm like, that might have just been a satellite, but okay.
Very interesting experiences from you. You always have a tale to tell whenever you come back from all of your trips. Well, we're going to continue our journey outside. I know you're building your first Ren Fair outfit. What are you going as?
I'm going as a druid. I'm really excited about it, but I also want to cry because I got the whole like wooden bracers and the corset, which was like, I don't even know how much it cost, but it was very expensive and more than I ever would have thought. Then you sent me those stupid pauldrons to match. And I was telling Bex about this yesterday. She goes, oh, well, you could like wait, you can always wait to build your Ren Fair outfit. Like, you don't have to buy those now. And I was like, I don't think you understand. And I sent it to her and she goes, oh, okay. She goes, those are really nice. And I was like, yeah. I was like, it would just complete the outfit. She goes, yeah, I'm going to let you decide what you want to do with that.
Yeah, and then you sent me those cool shoes to match the outfit. They were way out of anyone's price range, but...
Oh, no, so expensive. And it was funny. I was telling Eric, I was like, you know what? Like, we all have, like, overlapping interests a little bit, but, like, to different degrees, like the ACOTAR series, Baldur's Gate, D&D, anime, and all that. But I was like, I feel like Ren Fair is the one thing that we're all, like, very equally, very excited about. Beck's putting in more effort just because she has the capability and skills to, but you're not too far off since you made those pauldrons for Cookie. I'm just like, wow, okay.
Yep, I'm currently making my own pauldron because apparently I put his pauldron first, and I ended up taking apart half of my pauldron because I fucked up in a couple areas. It's my first scale mail piece, so I was learning how to do the weave, and then one of our Valkyries actually asked me the other day. They're like, "Do you do anything for yourself, like to like relax and self-care? Like, do you take up like crocheting?" And I was like, and I sent them a picture of the scale mail. I was like, "Does metal crocheting count?" They're like, "Yeah, let's say yes." I'm like, okay, then yes. Okay. So we mentioned ACOTAR, and obviously this is ACOTAR inspired. Can you tell listeners how Becca and I convinced you to read ACOTAR?
It was kind of a long process of you guys bugging me and telling me and me having FOMO because I kind of wanted to understand what you guys were talking about. And I was like, okay. And also, like, you guys were, like, starting to form this group and you're talking all these things. And I'm like, okay, I kind of want to know what they're talking about because I'm feeling a little left out. And, like, I listened to the first book and listened very loosely because I wasn't paying attention the entire time. I was on the plane to Nationals in Chicago, and I was on the airplane. I was listening to it, and I was falling asleep through it. And then even at my hotel, like in between, like the sessions for climbing when they're competing, I was listening to it, but I'd end up just taking a nap. So I'm really excited for this road trip that we're gonna have with Bex and then our best friend because we're gonna re-listen to the whole series. And I can't wait to re-listen to the first series because I just cannot remember anything. Like, I had to go back because Feyre, of course, like, got brought back to life or something. And I was like, wait, I missed that. I was like, what is happening?
I remember you texting us about that. And I was like, oh my God, how did you miss, like, one of the key, like, things?
Yeah, you're like, that's the most exciting part of the book. And I was like, I was like, I don't know. I fell asleep through it.
I'm going to need updates when you re-listen.
But I loved every book after that. Like the second one, I was like, this is amazing. And like everyone that I know who like started reading the book, I'm like, oh, I hated the first book. And they're like, oh, really? I'm really liking it so far. I was like, nah, it was shit to me. But the second one was fantastic. And everything after that.
It's kind of mixed on like the first book. But yeah, everyone else is just like, we dove all in.
So yeah, it was just pure FOMO.
Well, I'm glad you did finally read it because I remember, I think in some of the Valkyrie Squad workouts, I talk about you and Mark reading the books. And for any listeners who have made it all the way through the program at this point, my husband has now started ACOSIF this morning, July 6th. So it's been a while. I remember just talking about it in some of the workouts that you were reading it. And then I know I had also talked about Mark also reading it. And so for everyone to get a full update, I don't know if you ever got a full update in the workouts, but you've finished it a long time ago.
Yeah, no, I'm all caught up.
Well, on the subject of Valkyrie Squad, and we ask everyone this, would you recommend Valkyrie Squad?
Yes. I mean, I like the whole build up to it because you're always starting with the basics. It's always good to start with the basics and then you build up to it. And also just every person who I've said, people that I've mentioned about talking about the first book and how I hated it, every one of them, I'm like, I find a way to slide in like, oh, my sister has this workout that's based off of the last book. And I go off and it's like kind of a brag. But yeah, and they're not going to look it up themselves. They're just like, oh, wow, neat. And I'm just like, it's really cool though, guys.
Before we came onto this recording, because you whenever I'm feeling down or you lovingly insult me and then have to make up for it so I don't punch you. You have a lovely phrase for me. Can you tell the listeners what you say?
Just remember how beautiful and successful you are. It's usually followed by like a petting of the head. Just like short the shoulders. Shh, remember how beautiful and successful you are.
Please don't hit me. I know I insulted you. So I was listening to a podcast before this, and on the podcast, one of the girls told the host, I was talking about you, and I was really proud of you. And I just tell people, you're strange, you're unusual, and wildly successful. I was like, wow, this sounds like Alina.
You're like, that's about right.
Like, wow, Alina's going to start adding on more weird things on top of that.
Well, I was trying, because I don't have a compliment for Bex. And I was trying to think of one. I was like, because I do that to you all the time. I don't really do anything for Bex, really.
You're such a loving twin.
And I was like, literally thinking, I was like, oh, just remember how beautiful and creative you are.
That's good.
Oh, that's good. Like her, I don't know if she knows her creativity is like absolutely unmatched in my eyes. It's just wild.
So I want you to just tell her to listen to this episode and then just be surprised that you complimented her on the podcast, but not to her face.
Now I'm just trying to think, did you guys compliment me when you guys are both on?
No, I think we just talk shit about you. But that I am very proud of you.
Thank you. Sounded very half-assed.
No, but I do talk about you a lot. And how strong you are, and how you rock climb all the time, and all those crazy shit. Ever wonder what the Valkyries eat when training in the summer court? Tarquin gave us his cook's recipe book. Discover the delights of seasonal cuisine with the Summer Court Seasonal Cookbook by Akatar Eats. Embrace the nutritious and cost-effective benefits of eating with nature's calendar. With almost 30 new recipes for every occasion and Akatar-themed, this will be your go-to guide for the summer. Every recipe is swap-friendly for vegetarian and other dietary concerns. Check out the Akatar Eats Instagram page at Akatar Eats to purchase and for more information. And we're back. How did you get into rock climbing?
It's a long-ish, because there's like a hiatus in the middle, but like when we were like living in New Mexico, I remember a dad taking us rock climbing. I don't know if you were ever in on this, sis. I only remember me and Bex would go with our friends.
Yeah, I think it was more like the little ones are going. I'm going to stay home.
And so like we would go climbing, and it was fun because it was just kind of like a playground. And then when we moved back to California, I remember we went climbing at the Peak, or City Beach at the time. And it was for a birthday party, and that was super fun because I remember the three of us like going really hard on the wall, and everyone's like, wow, they just won't stop. And I'm like, this is fun. And then after stopping, because we were doing karate at the time, and I stopped when I was 13, I think. And then I just did nothing. And I was like, I kind of followed like a little bit what you were doing with like when you're getting into yoga and all that. And like I tried running, but like running is just not fun. And then after high school, I was like, this is fine because it's whatever. But then after high school was ending, I was like, I need to find something active to do just for like exercise. And for senior night, we were at the sports center, and there was a rock climbing wall. And I was like, I remember that being really fun. And I did it, and I was like, oh, that felt like really good. I really liked that. And I remember I reached the top of the wall, and then I had my friend do it, and she only got like a quarter of the way. And I was like, oh, despite my skinny little arms, I'm a lot stronger than I thought I was. And then I like did my own research, found like a rock climbing gym in San Jose so I could get belay certified. So like the ropes sort of thing. And I dragged Bex to go along with me. And she'll tell her own story about this belay class, but she's like, you were like so excited, but so useless at the same time, because I had a hard time learning the figure 8 knot because I was like, I don't like to show that like I get anxious for things, but I have a lot of anxiety, especially learning things, because I want to be perfect at it. So I just wasn't getting the figure 8 knot. And Beck's like, how are you not getting this? I'm getting this faster than you are. She goes, and we've learned this. She goes, because there used to be a rock climbing gym in Livermore, and Dad took us, and we learned how to belay there, but like that was forever ago. So I was like, she goes, well, you're so useless. And I was like, I'm sorry, but I caught on eventually.
Only sisters talk to each other that way.
Yeah, I don't know what was wrong with me. I just couldn't.
Performance anxiety?
Yeah, I mean, like, even for like lead climbing, which like is where you take the rope up with you, the rope isn't like attached at the top. It took me 3 or 4 tries to pass my test because I had test anxiety and my clipping was terrible. And when I finally passed my test, the guy tested me was like, he goes, "That was a lot better that time." He goes, "You could still use some work on the clipping." But then immediately after that, like I went up on the climb, like just to like do it again, just so that way me and my friend could practice and get comfortable. And my clipping was flawless. And he goes, "Well, now your clipping looks fine." And I'm like, "Yeah, because we're not being tested for it." And even to this day, I still hate doing lead tests. It gives me so much anxiety. Even though I've been doing it for years, I still just hate doing lead tests.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. But yeah, that was my journey. And then I just like got a job at the gym. I made some friends in the gym, started working at a different gym, just like kind of went up from there. And now all my friends and my personality is just climbing.
Your job is gym?
My job is gym.
My job is climbing.
My job and my personality is just climbing.
No, your job is rock.
And my job is rock.
But you're so much more than that.
I'm so much more. No, I am rock. It's like I'm Groot, but I'm a rock. Oh, what's that rock guy's name in Thor? Taika Waititi's character?
I'm watching Carolyn
trying to mime it out.
Korg. Okay, Korg.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are Korg, by the way. So, because your job is more than just rock, it's a lot of fitness. What has your journey through the fitness industry been like?
You know, I was thinking about this question a lot before we hopped on, and I realized this is gonna toot your horn a lot, sis. But my journey through the fitness industry kind of like started with you, because granted, I like tried track and field in my own time and all that, but like when you were getting into personal training and even yoga, like I would have you train me, and even for yoga, I would always like go along with you to do the yoga things, and even like when you're doing Pilates and stuff, I would always hop along. So I was always just kind of like following you along. But for a while, I was like in denial. Like even in high school, I took a sports med class, but I dropped out of it because I didn't want to wear khakis.
I didn't know that was why you dropped out of it.
It didn't help. The khakis didn't help. I also did not want to volunteer at football games because I hated football. So I was like, I will do any other sport but football. But they're like, this is how you get volunteer hours. So it's khakis and football. And also it's just like me being the youngest, I'm like, I'm going to find my own way and do my own thing because the fitness stuff is my older sister's stuff. So I don't want to like intrude on her things, and I want to be my own person. But then after a while, I was like, well, I guess it can't really be helped because we're related and we love each other. But my fitness just looks different from your fitness.
It does. I think you still made your own way. You paved this route, and then you are also going to be like, you're a physical therapy aide. That was never my calling. Good on you. I'm so proud of you. I'm like, I can't be bothered.
Yeah, I was like, I mean, like, what wanted me to go there was because of fitness. Like, when I got into rock climbing, I was like, oh, I'm so into this. And then, like, getting injured. Quote, injured, because I've never had, like, a severe injury. I don't have any wood to knock on. There we go. But I was like, oh, I'd like to help people, like, get back into their sport. That's how it started off with. Now it's, like, expanded more of, like, oh, helping, like, people recovering from surgery or even elderly people doing day-to-day things and stuff. But, yeah, I'm just like, oh, I like the idea of this. It's like being a doctor without like that kind of ego and prestige. You're just like, I'm here to help you out, buddy. It's just a different form of personal trainer. That's why they're both PTs.
Yeah, they both are. They're both into PTs. No, and that's really cool that you have that passion and that drive to help people, and that your entire journey along the way like got you to where you are now.
Yeah. And I know that was like one of the biggest things that made me a really good coach. Not to sound like big-headed, but it was that I cared a lot. Like my boss would tell me that. He goes, well, you like had a lot of heart and put into it. He goes, you might not have known because I never did competition climbing myself, and a lot of those movements are really hard for me. But he's like, but you cared a lot. And I was like, yeah, I did. I'd cry myself to sleep at night going, how am I doing it up?
You did so much for the teens and the kids. And I know those kids, you've impacted so many kids' lives from coaching them. It's really cool to hear.
I know, I'm thinking about them and I want to cry. I miss them so much.
I love how you and Becca got most of the emotions in the family. I'm like, wow, I just go, I'm proud of you. I really hope that came across as sincere.
That's why you're like, oh yeah, we compliment you, we talk about you, and I am proud of you. All right, that sounds a little half-assed, but I'll take it.
You know that's how I talk.
I know, that's why I'm not taking it personally. You don't see people going, my sister only talks mean shit about me. She says she's proud, but she doesn't mean it.
There was no sincerity in her voice.
She didn't cry about it later.
So we're gonna go down a little darkened path here. I just felt like I needed to give like a warning. I know you've talked with me about your struggles, and also very recently about your struggles with the rock climbing industry, especially around having to be, do, and look a certain way to be a climber. Can you share some more about that?
Oh, yeah, that's a loaded question. Yeah, so when I started rock climbing, it was just kind of a fun thing, and I was just working desk, like it was very casual. But then, like, how I got into coaching was because I have mixed feelings about it, because it seems kind of stupid, but it does make sense. Like, my boss was like, hey, we need a female coach because we just need a girl on the team, so that way, like, to help us, especially because the majority of the team were girls. And I was like, yeah, I'll take it. However, it was like, great, I started off on beginner team, so it wasn't that bad. So my lack of experience didn't really bother me so much. I'm like, oh, this is a fun thing. But then, like, COVID happened, and then we got back into climbing. We didn't have the beginner teams. We were doing the competition team. And I became head coach because I was the only other person qualified for it. But the former head coach was still assistant coaching. And so and he's like a really strong dude. He was climbing like over a decade. And then, like, he's been doing the competition scene for a long time, and he's like a V10, V11 climber. Just to give a reference, V0 is the lowest, V15 or 16 is the highest. Oh, it might be 17. Anyways, and I was only like a V6, V7 climber at the time. And so it was a lot of imposter syndrome, because I was like, what am I even doing here? Because I'm not strong enough. I was like, I have no experience in this. And that was made worse when I went to nationals and saw all the other teen kids and met all the other coaches who were like also just like super strong. And I was just like, that was really hard, because like I felt like I had to train so much harder and do so much more just to prove that like I could do the job and that I was meant to be there. So that really sucked. Like I loved coaching, and I loved like doing the like, even when I like moved away from that gym and moved to a different gym, I still like was the head coach, and I liked doing it. And it was a little less pressure, but there was still that pressure. Like, I need to show these kids who's boss, because I need them to take me seriously. So I was always training and always working out and like doing stuff. But it was like, I was never happy. I was like only doing it so I could, which wasn't a bad thing. I was always trying new things to like help the kids out, but I was never climbing. I started not climbing for me anymore. It was about trying to prove a point and like help the kids, which was like two very conflicting things. So that was hard.
Yeah. And say like with teaching kids is a whole other beast in itself. And I haven't taught kids since I was 16, 17 and had surprisingly a little bit more patience. But you have, in a sense, like, yeah, you have to show that you are more of an authoritarian figure so that they do listen to you, especially the kids that you are teaching. Like, they'll try to challenge and push you in ways because they're pushing all the boundaries. But I feel like with some adults, hopefully, like if you were coaching like adults or older teenagers going into college, that age, they sometimes feel better when you don't have to be as strong as you need to be to prove that you are a coach. Knowing the tools to help them get through everything is beneficial enough, and you don't need to have that stigma kind of hanging over you.
Yeah, and that was like one of the things when I finally left the team that I'd been coaching for like 5 years. Well, the team she goes, we really like, every single card said we liked your workouts. And I was like, you guys liked my workouts? I was like, all I ever heard you guys do was complain. And they're like, yeah, but we liked your workouts because there was a purpose to them. Like, it was never busy work. Like, coaches, like the guy who used to coach the climbing team, like way back, coached Eric essentially. Like, he did workouts that were like beneficial, but a lot of times it was just busy work and like try hard, which isn't really a fun way to work out. But like, these kids are just like, yeah, no, there was like a purpose to it. Like, there's like certain pull-ups. And then I tried doing like physical therapy things like rotator cuff stabilization and all that. They were really bored by that and it didn't work out very well. But in the longevity of it, they were like, oh yeah, I need to do like some PT for this and like really keep it on my shoulders. I'm like, okay, so you did like kind of take something away.
That's all you can hope for. But like what you said with like the busy work, it's kind of like what we did in karate, where we ran laps around the studio for no apparent reason other than to just give time for the instructor to pull their shit together.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like we still did that sometimes, but I was like, I would try and make it. I'm like, okay, if like we try and expand time, I usually try and make it like core because core is just like fundamental.
Yeah.
Teaching dead bugs to a bunch of kids is really funny.
Can you explain why?
Because it's really great to train coordination. I'm realizing now, but yeah, they're just like left hand out or right hand out, left leg out, go back to center. And the go back to center is something that's very difficult for them for some reason.
I mean, I've only rock climbed like a handful of times with you, but I feel like in the sense of climbing, I know this isn't completely relatable because it changes for each climb, but I feel like the dead bug translates really well for climbing because there's times where you're going to be opposite hand reaching and another leg is doing the work.
No, exactly. Yeah. I actually didn't think about that till literally like 5 seconds ago. And I was like, oh, wow. The dead bug was more than just for core stabilization. It was good for coordination as well.
Okay, but you should also, if you ever go back and teach the kids, you should give them same side dead bugs because that's real fun to watch.
I haven't tried those for myself yet. And I'm a little scared because my brain can do like dead bugs without thinking too much about it. So,
well, if like, I think it's Blade Month, I bring it in more. But we do them in Blade Month, and I know farther in because I was like, we do so many dead bugs. Let's try the same side one just to fuck everyone up. So it's just like talked about, we're going to pull it back in. So like we just talked about stigmas a little bit, and you actually just mentioned imposter syndrome. How do you deal with the feelings around that coming from being different in the rock climbing industry and their standards?
Honestly, for coaching and the imposter syndrome, I just had to talk to a lot of people. Like I met a woman, she's the head program director for this big rock climbing company in California. And I met with her and she and I were talking and she's like, yeah, she goes, I get that a lot. She goes, I have also not been climbing for very long. I'm not even the strongest person either. And I'm in this like head position, having a say for all these different teams at different levels. And she goes, and it's hard, but she's like, but I want to make the system better. So she's just got a lot of like me, she just wants to like improve and make things better. And that was something that helped. Even having a nice team, like my assistant coaches. God, this was the dream team. It was me, Alan, and Liam. And it was so nice because we all had different strengths. So like I was a really good planner and good at the workouts, but Alan was really good at coming up with games and keeping engagement. And then Liam was really good at, and actually Liam and Alan were both really good at the coordination and dynamic movements. And so like whenever we needed help, like Liam's like, oh, if you need me to come out with a workout, let me know. And I was like, yeah, okay, so you're in charge of biceps for today or any sort of pulling. And I'm like, Alan, I need you to do some push like workout. And he's like, okay, got it. And so we all just having a solid team is always like helped me through like at least that sort of imposter syndrome.
So you're saying a really good inner circle.
Yes.
Were they your rock boys or like not like the Bat Boys?
Oh, that's a good one. They're my rock boys. But yeah, having them around.
Please add that to your group chat name.
I can do that. But also like sorry, I'm like going off because there's another thing I remember is like I'm really happy that more professional athletes, especially female ones, are coming out with a lot of what they go through. Because of them just being honest. One of them, her name is Beth Rodden. She just came out, I was telling you about her a little bit, but she just came out with her book on her struggles. And she goes all into like what she was telling herself when she was like at her height of professional climbing. She's like, I gotta be able to climb this because, or else North Face is gonna drop me. I need to make sure I watch what I'm eating and keep a certain size. Like she was getting to the point where she's like, do they notice that I'm no longer an extra small in a harness? I'm a small. Like I'm getting fat and gaining weight. It was just like all these stigmas. It was a lot worse back then. Now it's getting a little better, but like it's still kind of hard. Like I was following this girl and she's a rock climbing coach as well, and she's got like these six-pack abs. She's super lean. I'm like, oh god, I want that. I'm like, I want those abs. But then there's this professional climber, and she came out and she always wears high-waisted shorts, so I never noticed. And she was talking, she goes, I don't have six-pack abs. I have, it's not defined in my stomach area at all, but she's climbing way harder than this girl with like the chiseled abs and stuff. And I'm like, oh, thank you for, she goes, I've always been self-conscious about it, but I've learned to like love my stomach. And I was like, thank you. It's so great to hear that from a professional climber.
Well, it just proves that it doesn't matter what your body shape is, and it doesn't define who you are.
Yeah. And so like since then I've started to like follow more climbers that at least share like my body size and like shape and stuff. Cause there's a lot of like, ooh, there's some twigs out there in the competition scene. And it's like they're still dealing with their own eating disorders sort of deal. Like a doctor for USA Climbing left because they took this sort of initiative out where they were testing like climbers' BMI to make sure that like they were eating enough, but they took that initiative away and the doctor left. Because he's like, we're not helping these athletes because he took that away. So there's a whole thing. There's a lot of shit going down in the climbing industry because it's now getting a lot more attention. And so like gymnastics, when that whole thing was going out, they're rebuilding gymnastics. Now it's climbing's turn.
I mean, it's good. It's unfortunate that a lot of these athletes had to go through these issues, but it's good that it's coming to light and it's changing the game.
Yeah, it's just like it's a lot like there's a whole like body weight to strength ratio that everyone's like, you gotta be tiny. Like I remember when I first started climbing, like I grew up a skinny kid, and like I know they were like, oh, you're like built for climbing because I was so tiny. Well, now I'm like getting more into my womanly figure and I have like these big ass arms. Now I just look like a boulder, but like yeah, I'm not as skinny and lanky as like some of these other girls and what I used to be. But my body's a lot healthier. And I'm honestly climbing a lot better, so.
And that's all that matters.
I mean, I was like, I have my days. Like, I look at my stomach and I'm just like, oh, man. But at the end of the day, I do really like food. And I can't climb when I'm hungry, so. Like, some people are like, God, yeah, like, I prefer not to climb when I eat. And I prefer to climb when I haven't eaten because I feel so much lighter. And I'm like, how do you have energy, though? Where's the energy coming from, though? Like, I have no energy. If I'm hungry, I'm like, oh. Like, the only thing that'll sometimes get me through a climb is if I am hungry and I'm like, well, if I send this climb now, I'll get to eat food and I get to be happy, not like wallow in self-pity eating food going, I didn't get the climb. At least I get to eat and be like, I got the climb. I'm so happy. I can eat and enjoy it and be happy and not be sad and eat.
Much like Naruto, though, because his main motivator is if he gets through the fight or the training session, he gets ramen afterwards. And that's all his his instructor will give him is, he's like, if you do this, we'll go get ramen. He goes, okay.
I hate that I'm just an anime shonen protagonist.
Because you're like Luffy, too.
Yeah, it's like, what? I'm hungry.
All the time. So, what do you currently do in the rock climbing industry?
In the business sense, absolutely nothing. I just climb for myself now.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong. It was actually like a relief when I like finally, it was so hard to leave coaching, but I finally left. That's a whole other story of just like, I just wasn't enjoying the gym I was working for. Like, it was just a terrible experience, but I loved the kids and I loved what I was doing, but it was just time for me to leave. And it was like hard, but after a while I was like, oh, I'm climbing for myself. And I finally left my plateau when I actually started getting better because I was finally climbing for myself and having fun. And I was like, oh, this is great. So now what I do in the rock climbing industry is that I just make friends. I take some teenagers out to climb occasionally, especially the girl ones primarily, because they're like, let's climb together. And I'm like, okay, I'm hanging out with a bunch of teenage girls today.
I was going to say, like, that didn't sound great how that came out.
No, it didn't. But I'm like the cool person, which is like kind of weird because I'm not that cool, but they're just like, we get to climb with Alina today. And I'm like, that's cool.
But you're like the cool ants.
I am, yeah. One of them's like, Alina, can I climb with you? I want to skip school because it's only the last day. And I looked at her, I was like, no, you are not skipping your last day of school. I'm like, don't you have friends you want to hang out with? She goes, you're my friend. I'm like, I'm not, don't count me into this. You go hang out with your friends that are your age.
You're cool, but not that cool.
Yeah, I looked at her, I was like, no, you're not skipping school for this. I understand it's your last day, but no.
Is that what you like love being about an instructor too? Was these connections you built with these kids?
Yeah, because it was like, I never saw myself as like a role model or anything. I was just kind of like doing my thing. But like a lot of the letters that I got from some of the kids was like, you like became like a really good role model and a friend for me. And I was like, oh, I didn't know how much that like meant to you guys. I was like, that's sweet. I was just like, yeah, I'm just trying to help you out, like understand you guys. I was just like, this is just what I do. So that was very sweet, very nice. And it's like, I felt like that was always something I wanted. Like, yeah, I had you, but like, I never had like an instructor or somebody like really see me. Granted, I was like super shy and very quiet and not the most forthcoming with my feelings, but I was like, I wanted to feel understood when I was younger. And so like, I just wanted them to like have someone that understood them that was an adult.
Well, that's why I said earlier, like you impacted so many kids' lives and you are a solid pillar in the house. The only thing you're a solid rock in their relationship.
I am rock.
And I know like those kids will remember you forever.
I just see like Bex's picture in the background that says, I am the rock in which the waves crash, like sort of thing. I'm like, I am rock.
So, Alina, next time I see you, I'm going to crash upon you.
Oh, God.
Okay. Last but not least, I got one more question for you. How do you feel about rock climbing finally being part of the Olympics?
Well, I'm hoping that this year for Paris, they fix their mistake from the last Olympics because, like, there's 3 disciplines of climbing. There is speed climbing, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a set, specific route. It's the same for everyone and everywhere that you train on, and you try and climb it as fast as possible. That's like the sprinting of rock climbing. You have bouldering, and that's like the track and field of rock climbing. It's like a shorter wall, it's more powerful, and the climb changes every time. And then you got the sport climbing, which is a longer route. It's like the endurance cross-country runners. The routes also change, and you just climb up with the rope and you clip in and you try and get as far as possible. Bouldering and sport climbing can have some overlap between the athletes. Speed climbing does not. Like, speed climbing is still a sport because I've tried it and that shit is really hard. But like in the Olympics, in the last Olympics, they were like all competitors have to compete in all 3 disciplines. And it was really sad, like seeing the boulders and the sport climbers speed climb because they are like nothing compared to the people who specialize in speed climbing. Like they can go up that wall in like 4 seconds. It's wild. And they're topping like 6 or 7, which is still impressive, but like not nearly as impressive as the professionals. And then you got the speed climbers going into the bouldering and the sport, and it's just absolutely so sad to watch them because they can't get very far because that's not their specialty. Like they can't get past the first hold or like for sport climbing 3 clips. So it's just like, that was like everyone's biggest beef with the Olympics for climbing was that sort of setup so I think for Paris, they are separating speed and just having bouldering and sport.
So they were trying to set it up like a triathlon, basically.
Essentially, yes.
Well, that's dumb.
And it was like it was like absolutely stupid. Like it was great that they were in the Olympics. It really like brought a lot of attention to climbing, brought climbing to a whole new level. But it was just like, please separate the speed climbing. Like the speed climbing just has no business. They'd have no business overlapping with each other. Like speed climbing is just so different. It doesn't have as much crossover.
Well, I don't know if you remember this, but I remember when you were watching the Olympics, I came over to braid your hair because I guess you decided to not want to do it that day. And you were watching, I only watched the speed climbing and the entire time, like your entire rant that you just had, you had there while I was braiding your hair. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. But yes, watching those speed climbers is insane.
Yeah. But it was really cool watching it for the first time because like some of these climbers, you're like, oh man, they're like an Olympic gold medalist for climbing now.
Yeah. And that was its first time ever, right?
Yeah, it was the first time ever. I think they used to be in the X Games.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. And like for the female podium, it was like I'd seen all those climbers before, so I was like, oh, that's like interesting, and like that makes sense, especially for, I think it was Yanya who won gold, and then Miho and oh god, I can't remember her other name. Her other Japanese competitor both got like silver and bronze, which I was like, that makes sense. Those are like the top climbers. Miho retired after that. No, not Miho. Nanako retired after that. And then the men's was interesting because there was one guy, I think he was from Spain, that won the gold medal, and I'd never heard of him before. And he kind of disappeared because he's not like a big name like Adam Andra, or like there's a new guy, Jakob Schubert, and I can't remember some of the other male climbers, but he's not as big a name as those guys, but he got gold for the Olympics, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Good for you. I've never heard of you before. But you performed well.
Maybe he'll be back this year.
I don't know if he qualified, but yeah, that'd be cool. So yeah, I'm excited.
Nah, I'm assuming you're watching this year.
Yeah, I like watching the competition climbing. Like, there's a World Cup that I still need to catch up on. I just haven't had time to watch it.
All very insightful into the rock climbing world.
This turned into a rock climbing podcast.
It's okay. I know we have rock climbers in the squad, or aspiring. So, this week's piece of Cauldron Blessed Wisdom is from Alina. The floor is yours.
So my Cauldron Blessed Wisdom is everyone's on their own hero's journey. So like in a video game, you have side characters to help you overcome the struggles to get you where you need to be. Just like Nesta had Emery and Gwyn to help her, they supported each other and overcame their struggles together. They became those strong, badass, and like kind characters because of it. And with that, don't discredit the process of experiencing struggle. Struggling doesn't mean that you are failing or that you won't reach your goals. Going through hard things is normal and should be expected on your own hero's journey. Everyone has to fight the dragon at some point. So don't be hard on yourself for the struggle. You're working through it in your own time. But yeah, the action item for the week is rely on your inner circle, like my rock boys.
Thanks, discredit us.
And I mean, that just came to mind, but yeah, no, like I call you and Bex whenever I'm having a hard time. Like that always gets me through the day. So like, it's always good to have that support and guidance from like the people that know you and care about you. And even if like just showing that vulnerability towards them as well. So don't be afraid to reach your hand out and ask for help. Even Ted Lasso had to ask for help when he needed it. And even though he knew it was hard, he stepped out of his comfort zone and got the help he needed. And as one of my favorite quotes from Ted Lasso says, I believe in communism, Rom communism, that is. If Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan go through some heartfelt struggles and still end up happy, then so can we.
That was absolutely worthy of Ted and such a good accent. I'm so proud.
I leaned into the Ted. I was like, oh, here's the Ted Lasso. I just believed in myself.
Oh, I see what you did there. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Alina.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And to all you listeners, until next episode, remember to be strong, kick ass, and be fucking magical every day. This episode was produced by writer Bex Castro and audio engineer Carolyn McMorrin. And special thanks to Alina Rogers Holmes. You can follow all her outdoor adventures on Instagram at Bean, that's BEAN .climbing. Special thank you to Taylor Ash for creating the music of this podcast. And thanks for listening to The Sword and the Ribbon by the Micro Squad. If you're interested in learning more about the Valkyrie Squad, visit us at thevalkyriesquad.com. If you're interested in learning more about the Micro Squad or Geek Gym for a class, visit us at themicrosquad.com. Make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you get your podcasts from so you don't miss out. And if you like this week's episode, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts.